been a while. I've kind of been deciding what to do with this channel, so I apologise if anybody has bothered looking for any content. Anyway, something I posted on X recently. Yeah, I do smoke. Well, I say recently, like yesterday and today. I had a call on Talk, Talk TV, Talk Radio, whatever, as I do from time to time, discussing the Makerfield by-election. And yeah, it was a really interesting discussion, really good talk, I think. But the reason I'm going to post the video now alongside this is the panellists at the end of the call. Just listen to what they've got to say, because what they've got to say is very interesting. So I'm going to put the video on at the end here. It's my entire call. It's about 8 minutes. My entire call with the panellist comments at the end. 2 weeks ago, they would not have been saying this about Restore Britain. They're actually seeing it now. For example, one of them, Jo Wheeler, she's basically saying that, that there is a groundswell here, that Reform have lost their way. And, Rupert speaks common sense to people who understand common sense, and they're liking what they hear, which is 100% accurate. Anyway, take a look. Let me know what you think. Cheers.
Mark, you call in every now and again, and we know that there are some people who'll know you're a Restore Britain supporter. What do you make of their candidate, Mark? And a very good evening to you. You're on with me and also Joe and Matthew.
Hi there, guys. Hi, Peter.
Hi.
Joe, Matthew as well.
Good evening.
Yeah, I'm very excited by her. I think she looks like a really good candidate. She's in keeping with what Restore Britain is really all about.
Realistically, she's not going to win, though, Mark, is she?
I think she has a half decent chance. I think there's a possibility she could. I think I'm quite I'm quite chuffed that nobody's given us a second thought, shall we say. I'm quite happy about that, because the looks on people's faces when it does happen will be so sweet. It really will. Because I think
isn't there a possibility, Mark? Okay, isn't there a possibility that if Restore Britain run I'm not saying people shouldn't stand, I'm not saying that for a second, but we've had people like Jacob Rees-Mogg, for example, saying the Tories shouldn't stand, give Reform a clear run. If you have the Tories standing, if you Restore Britain standing, maybe other parties of the right as well, and Reform UK loses and Andy Burnham wins, that could be something that you'd be less happy about.
Any left-wing party gets in power again, who's going to be happy whatever you vote for? At the end of the day, I think the problem that I have with all this kind of talk is, as I think I mentioned to you in the past, Peter, I'm really not interested in people telling me about splitting the vote, because nobody owns my vote. Reform certainly don't own my vote.
Yeah.
If you want to break it down to the nitty-gritty, you could argue that in 2024, Reform split the Conservative vote. You could go on this route all day, all week long if you want. Because the point is, why should I vote for something that I don't believe is going to do what they're saying they're going to do? I mean, even if there's talk that they're going to be, working with the Tories in any way whatsoever to not stand candidates here, there and everywhere, like from the Tory side of it, whatever, even that in itself just would only really confirm what people like myself have been saying all along anyway, that Reform are just essentially a Tory replacement party. I mean, they've filled their ranks with Tories.
Okay, just hold on a second, Mark. I'll just take your fader down just for a second. I'll get a reaction from Joe and Matthew, and then I promise I'll come back to you for your reaction to what they're saying. Joe, what do you make of what Mark said there?
Well, first of all, Mark, hi in Boston. I'll wave to you as I go past tonight on my way back to Lincoln. Obviously, Boston is a local constituency for me, and they voted Brexit. They were very clear on that. They will leave, and Reform have done stunningly well there. It worries me slightly when I hear the nuance of Restore against Reform, because that is splitting the vote. And at that point, there's a chink in the armour. You've got two parties who are currently considered to be right of centre. And if you've got so many Reform voters, but some of them are now Restore, then obviously that reduces the votes overall against Labour.
Matthew, do you think Andy Burnham is worried about Restore Britain at all, or is he particularly worried about Reform's vote? What do you make of that?
Honestly, I don't think Andy Burnham is worried about stuff like this, and that's not me doing, I'm backing my man. He's very aware, having grown up around this area for the last 30 years, of how people think, why they've moved over to certain parties, why Reform took nearly all the council seats that were up for election in the Wigan area a few weeks ago. I think there's a possibility where you could look at this and go, well, Restore standing will help. On the other side, the Green Party seem adamant they want to stand as well, and people would think that. I think if you have enough courage in your political arguments and you are doing enough, you will win the day. And that's why, you know, my view, I've had people from the Green Party reach out through back channels, but my view is that you don't need to do a deal with the Green Party. You put your argument forward and you take your best case forward, and that's what I would expect. That's what I assume Nigel Farage will want to do. I think the idea of joining together and all the rest of it, I think it dilutes democracy, and people get a bit fed up after a bit. Mark, what do you make of what Joe and Matthew said there?
Well, I think, I mean, if this is her constituency, same constituency as myself, well, I don't think Tice will be winning it next time round. That I'm pretty sure of.
What makes you so sure?
From the talk from people that are around town, people that I speak to that visit here, because obviously you know my situation.
I mean, Reform UK are way ahead in lots of different polls. They're far further ahead than Restore Britain.
Reform UK, when they come up against, certainly in constituencies like Boston and Skegness, when they come up against an alternative like Restore Britain, they're going to have some serious problems. That's right. I would say. I mean, if you look at, even if you go and look at the rally over the weekend, you can say what you like about Tommy Robinson, and I have no time for the man. But there was only one party and one leader that crowd was chanting for, and it wasn't Nigel Farage, and it wasn't Reform. That's the reality. As I say, there are things happening out there that people don't really want to either admit or just haven't quite realised yet.
All right.
And we will see. We'll see at the end of the day. We'll see what we see.
We will, of course.
With Makerfield, I don't expect Restore Britain to win this seat.
Okay.
You know what I'm looking for from this, for a 3-month-old party, is essentially not to embarrass ourselves like Advance UK.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens. Listen, thank you very much. That's Mark in Lincolnshire.
Peter,
Sorry, you have another thought?
Very quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Anecdotally, and it's only anecdotally, anyone I know that was voting Reform where I'm from are shifting over to Restore, and I think, honestly, that's the truth. And I do, and it all seems to be since they took former Tories on.
Okay.
And I do wonder if it will turn from something quite online, quite an internet thing, to growing some legs as time goes on. I'm not saying they're going to be challenging the next election, but I do wonder whether they will aim to chop the legs off Nigel Farage at the next election, because it seems to be quite personal with Rupert Lowe.
Do you think Reform UK has been diluted in terms of their message, in your view, Joe?
Yeah, I do.
Right.
Yeah, very, very definitely so. I think Restore is coming from behind, and they are saying the things that the electorate want to hear. They obviously had great success in Great Yarmouth.
Well, they're town councillors, not great success. It's 10 councillors. I mean,
from a start, from nothing.
Well, that's true. And some of them were defectors and all the rest of it. Rupert Lowe clearly doesn't like Nigel Farage. He is clearly someone who a lot of people find very charismatic figure. A lot of people like him. Mark likes him. Various other people, and there are many tens of thousands of people who are followers of him. But it is very interesting to see Reform UK, because their poll lead has gone down slightly. Saying that, they've just got 1,500 new councillors, and Restore have got 10. So that's you can't argue with those numbers.
Yeah, but Reform started in the same way, relatively recently, and they've gone from strength to strength. Okay. And all I'm saying is that listening to Mark from Boston, and as I say, this is a constituency I know and understand, and the very fact that he's saying these things, Rupert Lowe speaks common sense to people who understand common sense, and they're liking it. Okay. And if they're liking it, then yes, I think there will be a big swell towards Restore.
Final thought from Matthew on this?
No, I just think keep your eyes on him. There's something to be concerned about, certainly if you're worried about a potential split right vote at the next general election.
We certainly will. Yule in Ballymena has been in touch and says Reform are obviously running scared, wanting Restore and the Tories to stand down in their favour in the by-election. This is pathetic.